I'm only kidding. So this is our specials for November. A lot of really exciting things. Janice and I at convention just went rushing right over to see what everything was going to be, and just some really really cool stuff. So we are going to go through this. So November holiday specials, oils for health and your wellness, and breathe. Breathe is the product of the month. So that is the oil that with 125 PV you get for free. Of course, at 100 you get free shipping, and at 50 you get a percentage of your points, 10 to 30% of your points, and a reduced shipping rate. So all good stuff. So all right, we're going to talk about Melissa first. Melissa is an amazing, amazing plant, and it is known for its ability to help to balance and elevate the mood. So Melissa is 20% off all of November. And I'm going to put on my glasses. So let's see. Yes, the common name of Melissa is lemon balm, and Melissa is listed as an officinalis, which meant that the monks in Europe, when they were preserving information during the Dark Ages, they recorded Melissa as one of the official herbs in their books. And so that's why officinalis is after the word Melissa, and meant that it was cataloged. And it is a member of the mint family, but it's a particularly amazing one. Now, there isn't as much of the essential oil in the plant, so it's so precious. But that's what makes it expensive, is when it's difficult to extract the oil from it. And Melissa has been used by cultures all over the world for over 2,000 years. So behind the scenes, behind the science. So preclinical studies suggest that Melissa supports healthy inflammatory response, and preclinical studies also show that Melissa may aid in healthy nervous system function. So if you're feeling like I have one nerve left and somebody's on it, that would be time to pick up your Melissa. Melissa can be integrated into a massage, enriching the soothing experience, very soothing to the muscles and to the emotions. So definitely good to incorporate in. Take a look at the Symphony of the Cells, and if you're doing an SOC on somebody, then and they are dealing with either mood or inflammation, and you want to incorporate the Melissa in there, you could do that. If it's not already in there, you could take one out and put one in. The SOC is very adaptable, so you can do that. Melissa supports a healthy metabolism according to the preclinical studies. And of course, we already talked about the common name is lemon balm. I'm sure at some point you've all had tea that was lemon balm tea, or lemon balm was one of the ingredients maybe in a tea that you were drinking. So Melissa can be used in a variety of different ways. It can be diffused for a relaxing but uplifting environment. You could rub it on your forehead, your shoulders, your chest, your back, the bottom of your feet. Although, why put it so far away? It smells amazing. 1 to 2 drops you can put in your, put a little bit in your honey. And you don't need a lot of honey, but put it a little in your honey so that way it will disperse through the cup of tea better, and you'll be able to enjoy it not just sitting on top of the water, which is great. You can add it to homemade ice cream, and which is really actually a funny idea, because sugar is one of the key players in ice cream, and it's very inflammatory. So add your Melissa to your ice cream. Maybe you balance it out a little bit. But it will taste very, very delicious, being that it is part of the mint family. I thought that was kind of funny. So, and when you're using this for your forehead, your shoulders, your chest, your back, you can use it with castor oil and fractionated coconut oil, or one of your other carrier oils if you like jojoba oil or almond oil or avocado oil or whatever you're using. Don't use just straight castor oil. I mean, nothing wrong with it. It just makes it difficult because it is so thick and sticky that it's not going to give you the slip that you need to be able to massage in. If you're putting it on your forehead with that, it's still like it's really heavy. So if you're making a roller bottle that has Melissa in it, then and you want to add some FCO, that's cool, but I wouldn't do the whole thing with FCO personally. Your choice. Okay, so Melissa diffuser blends. So we have 1 drop of Melissa, 2 drops of frankincense, 2 drops of wild orange, and a drop of cinnamon bark. That'll smell absolutely incredible. Then you have your autumn wind, which is a drop of Melissa, 2 drops of cedarwood, 2 drops of lavender, and a drop of vetiver. Oh goodness, so calming. Those wood oils, the vetiver, the cedarwood, and the lavender. This is definitely one when you just want to just crawl under those covers and get a good night's sleep. This would have been perfect for the night that we had the time change to get everyone to downwind and unwind and go to sleep a little earlier, like I did not do. Light the season. 2 drops of Melissa, 2 drops of lemongrass, a drop of clove, and a drop of wild orange. What a beautiful, beautiful combination. Very uplifting. So that sounds amazing. I'm going to have to do that. Okay, and now light and calm Melissa herbal tea. So you could take loose leaf chamomile tea is what I would use. So you know the bags are not the healthiest thing. Okay, you're going to do better by getting a stainless steel tea strainer or one of the little ball. For me, I don't know. I've never really loved the ball. It just annoying trying to deal with that thing. I mean, nothing wrong with it. It's fine, but I prefer a strainer or one of the strainers that sits over the edge of the teacup and sits inside the teacup and you pour the water in. I love that style, and that's what I use. So, but whatever you like. So chamomile, a couple fresh mint leaves or a little bit of dried mint. And I have no idea why you would add um, mint leaves to something in a bag because you're straining it out anyway. So skip the bag. Then you have raw honey or whatever honey you have on hand. Raw honey is best. A drop of Melissa, and then add your hot water to taste. Really, I mean, I like a great big mug, and so that's amazing. So make sure that if you want to get the medicinal properties, that you want to steep your chamomile and your mint for 7 to 10 minutes. 5 is too short. So 7 to 10 minutes minimum for leaves. And then remove the herbs and then put in your drop of Melissa. You do want to let it cool slightly because if you put it in too hot, then the essential oil is going to, diffuse itself very quickly and you won't get as much benefit from it. So, and yes, do add the Melissa to the honey before adding it to the tea so that you get a chance to have it disperse into the water. And then we have here a couple more diffuser blends. So we have Grateful Glow. We have a drop of Melissa to a frankincense. Did I do these already? Is this the same ones that I did? Yes, I did. Okay, we'll skip that. But I do want to do this. So Melissa, it's sweet and fresh and supportive, powerful and comforting and relaxing. So Melissa roller bottles. So Lemon Balm Sunshine. So now roller bottles, we always, normally when I give a recipe for a roller bottle, unless I specify otherwise, it's a 10 ml glass roller bottle with a stainless steel ball. And so you're going to add fractionated coconut oil last to whatever our combination is. So 2 drops of Melissa, and I'm sorry, um, these were originally for 5 mLs, so, probably even smaller. Okay, I'm going to say 8 drops of Melissa, 12 drops of wild orange, and 10 drops of grapefruit, and then add your fractionated coconut oil. Again, here, do 8 drops of Melissa, 10 drops of lavender, and 8 drops of frankincense, and add your FCO. Next, we have release and renew. So we will have 8 drops of Melissa, 8 drops of neroli, 8 drops of ylang ylang, 4 drops of copaiba, and your fractionated coconut oil. Then we have overwhelm, overwhelm and reset. So we're going to have 10 drops of Melissa, 8 drops of chamomile, and 8 drops of bergamot, and your fractionated coconut oil. Sweet confidence, 8 drops of Melissa, 10 drops of bergamot, 10 drops of lime. All of those combinations are going to be absolutely wonderful for elevating the mood. So we're going into winter in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and the days get really gray and gloomy. So have your Melissa ready to either diffuse or apply. Next, we're going to talk about breathe. Breathe is cooling, refreshing, soothing, powerful, minty, fresh, and airy. And so it's a blend of laurel leaf, peppermint, eucalyptus, tea tree, lemon, cardamom, ravensara, and ravensara. Okay, so those are 2 different plants. They have some similarities, but they're not the same. So, Doterra breathe respiratory blends. Key benefits are to open the airways, helps for the ability to be able to breathe easier, creates a restful environment. It's very soothing and restful. A lot of times people will add lavender to it or add serenity to it, which is fine. But on its own, it is a calming combination. So that is good. And very beneficial when it comes to snoring or when it comes to any type of respiratory issues, allergies. It just helps to keep the nasal passages open for allergies or colds or anything like that. It just helps to keep the airways clear, so you wake up and you're not feeling so congested. So now in that you have your laurel leaf, peppermint, eucalyptus, tea tree, lemon, cardamom, and of course your ravensara and ravensars. Okay, so breathe. I usually use in a diffuser, but I do have a breathe roller bottle, and they just came out with a breathe stick. But you're going to get the breathe 5 ml when you place your subscription order. You want to call it your LRP, your loyalty order. When you place that, you'll get free shipping for 100 PV order, and you'll get the free breathe. So go ahead and use it for your diffuser to help with those snores in the house and keeping the airways open. And then you can also make a roller bottle to apply to the back, the chest, the feet, your 10 ml bottle with 30 drops of breathe, and of course your fractionated coconut oil. If you're making it for little children, if you just put like a dot, like on the bottom of the feet, but otherwise you want to make their own for them. This is one, because it's not for internal use, that I usually don't hand it to little children to keep. Whereas the lavender, I'm comfortable with that because you only put 4 drops in for a little child into the entire bottle, and it's ingestible anyway. So, and there's no way they're eating it. But breathe is minty, and so they might roll it on their tongue and whatnot. So, next we have our diffuser blends. So rosy cheeks. So you have here the breathe, the holiday joy, and the citrus bliss together. So The little droplets that you see next to the items in the recipe, that tells you how many drops, 3 drops or 2 drops, whatever it is. Sweet breaths. So you have the Doterra Breathe, the lemon and the lime, fresh breathe. We have the breathe, the peppermint and the lemon. And there's many more combinations with eucalyptus and cardamom and oh goodness, I'm going to draw a blank. Rosemary is wonderful. Thyme is great for the respiratory system. So if you want something a little different than just breathe all the time, you can add other things to it. You certainly can get kind of wild and crazy and add a little vetiver to it if you want, or some cedar wood. So whatever you're looking for in that area. And you know what else you can add? You can add your balsam fir or your one of your black spruce or something like that, because they're very good for the respiratory system. So you could add a drop or two of that to your breathe. So DIY shower melts. So you're going to take baking soda and you're going to take your water and you're going to take your breathe. So combine the baking soda and the water in a small bowl and mix and add in your breathe. Depending on desired potency, and you're going to mix or stir it really well. Pack the mixture into small silicone molds and allow it to set overnight. Normally, you were going to put citric acid in this also, and this recipe doesn't call for that, but normally you're going to put citric acid into like a bath bomb or shower melts, so you can. And then to use it, you're going to place it, you're going to place a little tub in your shower away from the direct water and enjoy the aroma. Will go into the air on a slower basis than if you just put it on the floor of the shower. When people say put a couple drops on the floor of the shower, but other people say, well, that's scary because somebody could slip and fall. You're not going to slip and fall from 2 drops of breathe on the floor or even 4 drops of breathe on the floor, because it's not that kind of greasy oil. It's not like you're putting, like, I don't know, olive oil on the floor or something. So that's not really a problem. The bigger problem, within a minute or two, the aroma is gone and you washed it down the drain already. So whereas this, you get a much longer chance to smell the aroma of the breathe that way. So other shining stars that we have for holiday is we have our holiday joy and our holiday peace. So with the holiday peace, here's some diffuser blends. So you can use the holiday peace with bergamot, all is calm, or you can use it in this overwhelm combination, because like we've all had people be overwhelmed during the holidays, right? 4 drops of holiday peace, 2 drops of frankincense, 2 drops of peace. So if you remember the emotional set, the peace oil that's in there. So that's what they're referring to when they say peace the second time. Then calm and happy, you have 4 drops of the standard emotional line peace. And then you have your green mandarin and 2 drops of frankincense. And that one doesn't even have holiday peace in it. Very interesting. And then all the holidays, 2 drops of holiday joy, 2 drops of holiday peace, and 2 drops of harvest spice. I've got to do that. That sounds cool. Fresh air, 3 drops of holiday peace, 3 drops of Douglas fir, and 3 drops of lemon. Citrus twist, 4 drops of holiday peace, 2 drops of wild orange, and 2 drops of grapefruit. And then holiday frazzled. Oh boy, this looks amazing. 4 drops of holiday peace, 3 of balance, and 1 of vetiver. And then all is calm. Oh, serenity and peace. That sounds great. At the end of the day, the kids are asleep. The lights are on the tree looking pretty. So holiday joy is a blend of wild orange, clove, cassia, Siberian fir, frankincense, benzoin, ginger, Peru balsam, cistus, and they are a wonderful combination. So you'll have your holiday joy together with the Lumist holiday diffuser, and that is motion activated. And so I don't know if you remember my story about my son with the motion activated one in the bathroom at Easter time, but that was the year before last, but very funny. Walking in front of it, your motion is what makes it diffuse, not stinkiness. Okay, so all right, 10 ways to use holiday joy. So this is, and you could do this with the piece also. Okay, um, so diffuse in the home to boost the mood and promote connection. You can add it to a potpourri. You can diffuse to promote feelings of warmth and happiness. Um, Add it to your diffuser jewelry if you have a necklace or a bracelet. You can put it on the bottom of your feet for increased blood flow. You can make a spritz and spritz your tree or your garland or your wreath. Um, you can inhale directly from cupped hands to help with your mood. You can add a drop to holiday cards or things that you're giving out during the holidays. You can apply it to your coat or your clothing. You can make a mist to spray your clothing. Um, so you can also add a few drops to lotion, or if you have a plain lotion, you can add it to that. So diffuser blends for holiday joy. So we have holiday joy, Douglas fir, Siberian fir. We have holiday joy and balance. We have rosy cheeks, which is, we did some of these, I think, but holiday joy, breathe, and citrus bliss. Santa's workshop, holiday joy, peppermint, cypress, and wild orange. That sounds really good. Holiday joy and on guard, holiday joy, peppermint, and wintergreen. Well, that sounds very cooling. Wassail. This I thought was really interesting. So this, you add this to hot water, and this will make a mug of wassail. So if you don't know what that is, it basically is what we used to do is we would get a crock pot and we would pour a big thing of apple cider in there, not apple cider vinegar, apple cider. And we would cut up an orange and throw that in there and some cinnamon sticks in there. And we would just let that simmer in there until the company came and people could just ladle it out into their mugs, nice and hot. And we usually would have a big gathering and we would have the fire pit going outside and people would take their cup of wassail and go stand outside by the fire or their cup of coffee. And, but, this is wonderful. So something I want to mention, actually, since we're kind of ish on the topic, is if you want to, if you are putting cream in your coffee, if you're putting a milk product in your coffee, you can put peppermint in your coffee and it'll disperse nicely for the holidays, a nice peppermint cup of coffee. If you use almond milk or oat milk or something like that, there's not the fat in it. So you would need to add it to a little bit of maple syrup first, put it in a little maple syrup, or you could add it to a little coconut oil and put it in. You could do that and then add your almond milk too. So, but without the fat, it's going to sit on the top and you're going to get a lip full of peppermint. But you can make a really nice peppermint cup of coffee that way for the holidays. So Vanilla Dream Restorative Lip Balm. So I'm probably going to end up getting this for my boys because lip balm is lip balm. And this is really good if you spend time outside, if you like to take walks in the cold, or if you just are in the cold for some reason. My boys are snowboarders, so I'm probably going to get them that because they love to have some type. I always get them the regular lip balm that we have available for them to take with them snowboarding. The one gets such cracked lips when he doesn't. So, and I think it's because when it gets uncomfortable, he starts licking his lips, and the more he licks his lips, the worse it gets. So Vanilla Dream Restorative Hand Cream. So this has shea butter in here and a wonderful aroma of vanilla. And so it's in a nice travel ready tube. And that's a nice gift. So think about gifts as you're looking at these things because it's an easy way to do that, to get your gifts. So this I don't have any more. Well, I do have one baby. He's 4. Um, my grandson of my grandkids. The rest of them are 6, 8, and 11. Or no, the boys are 9 now and 11. I have 2 that are 9 and 11. So I don't have any real little ones anymore, but I do have one that's 4, and that owl is the cutest thing. That is so adorable, and it comes with a calmer. So calmer has lavender, cananga, Buddha wood, chamomile, and you can put that into your diffuser. You can make a roller bottle for them, which is really nice. So so this is a nice ceramic dispenser for your um, On Guard hand soap, and that looks really nice on the counter. So um, I thought I would dive in with 2 feet while we're at it and talk about other uses for On Guard. And so as far as On Guard in general goes, not the hand soap, but you can use On Guard in your diffuser to freshen the air. You can use it um, Oh, in a jewelry diffuser. Yes, I've used it to clean jewelry before, by the way. Um, you can diffuse it. Well, I put it in with what did I put it in with? Rubbing alcohol, I think. Can't recall. No, I used the On Guard toothpaste. That's right. I used the On Guard toothpaste and I did my jewelry that way. So, okay, you can apply On Guard to the bottom of your feet to help to support your immune system. You can apply it to the chest with an with the carrier oil for a warming aroma. You can use it in DIY sprays for cleaning or for just making the room smell good. You can add it to your bucket for cleaning the floors, cleaning the bathroom. You don't want anybody sick during the holidays, so it's very antimicrobial. You can put a cotton ball near the vents or in the car or at home to freshen the air. You can make your own hand soap with your On Guard. You can make your own hand sanitizer. You can add it to your dish soap. So, like, especially if somebody's sick in the house, that would be a good idea. Um, so it is such a warm aroma to diffuse for people coming over. It just smells like holiday with the cinnamon and clove in there. I know somebody who, when she gets a sore throat, she takes a roller bottle with the On Guard and the FCO and puts it over her glands. And she said it makes a huge difference. You can, of course, add it to your dryer balls. You can add it to baking soda and sprinkle on your carpets, especially if you had a pet mess and you already cleaned it up, but you just want to make sure like that you're killing any germs that might have been there. So you can make your own carpet fresh with the On Guard and baking soda. And you can, of course, spray down your trash can, put a drop of uh, the On Guard on the bottom of the trash can is a great idea. So On Guard is a shining star in this time of year. We have our winterberry, and our winterberry has cedar wood, yellow mandarin, balsam perot, guaiac wood, um, green patchouli, xanthoxylum, osmanthus, fenugreek, cistus. So this is a very grounding wood oil. It's a very woody. Um, they describe it as being like a quiet winter forest, very peaceful aroma. So this would be for calming down at the end of the day. So your lemon lime drops, and they're infused with the lemon and the lime essential oils. And so they're really yummy. And we also have the cinnamon ones this year too. And then we have our lavender honey, which is great to put on things that you might want to enjoy, even a little thin little coat of it on your toast for something special. Or you could put it right into hot water, because it has the lavender already. If you like it lavender, kind of like a lavender tea, or you could put it into tea and have a lavender tea. So you have the Luminist here with the Holiday Joy. And then we have our Escape series. and this has the coastal, the vineyard, and the Amazon. Now, I believe we'll talk about it at the end, but I believe somebody was asking me about those aromas, so I'm going to have them with me when we all meet together on the 15th. So the Yule log um, is a wonderful blend, and you know what? I thought I had copied the oils that are in that, but I think I skipped that by accident. And here is our whole, yeah, there's the cinnamon drops right there. Our whole lineup there for the holidays. So a lot of wonderful gifts for yourself or for your family and